Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining episode 49. Today we're going to talk about 3 ways to bring your VTCs into a modern meeting. And I have a very special guest, another special guest that we're bringing to the table, Eddie Clifton. Thank you for joining us.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Eddie is the VP of Strategic Partnerships at Pexip, and he's going to talk about one of Pexip's awesome solutions that they're helping us with Skype for Business. So, Eddie, thanks again.
Yeah, okay, great.
So, tell us a little bit about you, Eddie. I know you've had a long history in the video conferencing business, so tell us how that started.
Yeah, so I've been in the video conferencing industry for many, many years. I've worked for companies such as Polycom, Tandberg, and some of the other big video conferencing vendors. So I've in my career I've worked on many of the large video conferencing installations around the world. And what we tried to do at Pexip was look at some of the problems that needed solving to get video conferencing ubiquitous and democratized across organizations, because what we saw was that video conferencing, when it's used properly, it creates amazing productivity and it enables people to make decisions and drive business decisions a lot faster than just traditional ways of communication. So what we set out to do with Pexip was to really try and create something that would join the very expensive, complicated worlds of legacy VTC or VTC to the new and exciting worlds of PC-based and standard hardware-based video conferencing, obviously the biggest one, Skype for Business, and joining those two worlds together and hopefully sort of creating a catalyst that will allow the democratization of video across a business so everybody in an organization can use the same tools that the executives use. And the analogy we always kind of used when we sort of started out was that a long time ago people used to look at ancient Egypt script and of hieroglyphics, and they couldn't understand what it was for thousands of years. No one could translate what it was. And in about 200 years ago, just over 200 years ago, some French archaeologists found a thing called the Rosetta Stone. And people get confused. The Rosetta Stone isn't a software that teaches you French. It's actually a archaeological artifact. It is also software, but it is mainly a artifact. And what this stone did was translated the hieroglyphics into modern languages. And it created a revolution and a real disruption in the world of understanding what hieroglyphics were and understanding of the old world. So we like to think that Pexip is like the Rosetta Stone for video conferencing. It takes lots of languages and lots of protocols and puts them together into one conference. And the customers that have deployed Pexip so far, there are many large organizations that have been able to use Pexip as that catalyst to drive mass deployment of video conferencing.
I really like that analogy. It's really cool that you guys can really translate many of the different protocols and all the different hardware stacks that people might have, and then bring them into a unified experience, and so that at least everyone can participate. So tell me a little bit about the environment. You know, what are you seeing out there? How many people are on the various different technologies in the cloud or on-prem, or et cetera?
Well, I think what we see a large amount of companies with an appetite for video communication. Let's be clear. I mean, the conferencing industry, the corporate conferencing industry, is a $20 billion plus industry. So it's a very large industry, but it's predominantly telephone based, and everybody's seen the funny videos on YouTube with the, oh, sorry, can you just ask that question again? I didn't get that. and people are looking at YouTube and so on, and people want a more authentic conference experience.
Yeah.
And video brings that dimension. So it's a $20 billion plus industry, and video is a very small piece of that. So bringing Skype for Business and the legacy VTC world together, and also audio conferencing into one sort of conference is a real new thing that's creating a big disruption in the world of productivity, because productivity is increasing because people are able to work from different places.
Yeah.
We are enabling, a few of the things that I'm most proud of is enabling, working mothers who are probably having children to carry on their career uninterrupted by working from home and creating flexible working environments and things like that. So video there's a lot of things video can do, and Pexip is all about that.
Yeah.
But there are some challenges, and I think if you look at the core of what Pexip's about, many large organizations can't move to the cloud at the moment. We want them to move to the cloud. The cloud is the place to go.
Yeah.
But due to regulation and laws and data restrictions and so on, such as in industries like finance and government and pharmaceutical and these type industries, on-premise has to be key. And the sort of specialist area that Pexip plays in is on-premise video conferencing interoperability or conferencing interoperability. But at the same time, we are a hybrid solution, so you can run some of our solution in the cloud and on-premise at the same time. So another thing we did when we started Pexip was we used to make equipment made on proprietary hardware. It was very expensive. We used to use specialized processors and specialized hardware. And an average sort of video conferencing bridge used to cost nearly $1 million.
Yeah. And where would they put these things?
Well, in all sorts of places. And when they went wrong, it was a very specialized piece of equipment, and no one knew how to fix it.
Right.
So one of the kind of founding tenets of Pexip was to build a solution based on standard Intel off-the-shelf hardware processors. And we use data center processors and hypervisor type environments that are ubiquitous across data centers. So everybody knew how to use it. And it was a specialist application that you could run in a standard environment that you could literally almost go to Best Buy and buy the server, put that in place, and do something that used to, just a few years ago, 5 years ago, cost $1 million, and do something for like $8,000 or $9,000. It's a huge reduction in price and a massive disruption. So what we found is that by implementing these solutions into large corporations, they're able to utilize video conferencing and Skype for Business in amazing ways. I mean, we've seen companies who have implemented Pexip who were using, let's say, 4 or 5 million minutes, it sounds a lot, of Skype for Business video a year.
Yeah.
All the way up to 110 million minutes of Skype for Business video a year in a very short space of time. And that's really exciting to us because it's massively increasing the usage of not only Skype for Business, but other tools like Azure, Hyper-V, and it's really bringing the sort of PC-centric world to an old-fashioned proprietary world.
Yeah. We've really seen the tipping point of what, the reduced cost of computing, a more distributed workforce, different work style allow for different types of parents to have different work styles. And, technologies like Skype for Business have really been helpful in facilitating that transition to the modern workplace. Okay, so you talked a little bit about, people using it, the cost of the infrastructure has gone down, and obviously there's a need to simplify and make, or in other words, have higher utilization of the
Yep.
technology. So tell me some of the challenges when you have hybrid or mixed environments, when you have some users on VTCs versus other users on Skype for Business.
Well, you know, everybody's experienced this. When people don't sit in offices anymore, they don't sit in the office all day. They're out and about. Because of these technologies, people work from home, they work from airports, train stations, all kinds of different places, client sites. And what Pexip allows you to do is to bring all of those people in and bring those devices into one single conference. And that in itself enables quicker decision making, because you don't have to wait for that person to come back off sick leave or come back from a business trip to get round the table and have a meeting. You can have, the velocity of meetings is dramatically increased by using this technology, because you can bring someone in from a cell phone, you can bring someone in from a laptop, a tablet, a legacy VTC system, or of course the wonderful Surface Hub, or a Skype for Business room system. There are just multiple devices now that you can all bring together into the same conference and get everybody round that virtual table and share data as well is the other thing. Because the key point about Pexip is the ability to, you've got all these different devices that I just talked about, but it's also sharing data backwards and forwards, sharing PowerPoints, Excel spreadsheets, websites, videos, and collaborating on that, on that issue.
But without a solution like Pexip, those companies typically have a lot of their VTCs rooms that have been expensive to set up and deploy, or at least they have a sunk cost in them and they want to get some utilization in on it. And so without a solution like Pexip or any of the other interoperability solutions, they typically go unutilized, right?
That's right.
Or they're disconnected from the rest of the ecosystem.
Yeah, we like to call them vacuum cleaners, because they sort of sit in the corner and collect dust. And that's kind of the video. And when people see video not being used, they think it's a bad technology and they just revert back to what they know, which is audio conferencing. And I think that's the key thing here, is getting people utilizing the technology and getting used to using video technology, because it really is revolutionary. And the companies that do use it, there's been a huge huge uptick in productivity and, like I said, different ways of working. And there are just so many use cases in so many verticals that this can be applied to. But the reality is, there is a large amount of legacy VTC equipment out there that people tend to write off over a longer period of time. So legacy VTC equipment is written off over 5, 6, 7 years. So you want to be able to use that equipment. You don't want to put it in the trash and start again. So what Pexip allows you to do is to gradually fade over your workforce from the old ways of working to the new modern meetings environment that Microsoft's coming up with, which is fantastic and it's going to change the world, frankly. But they can do that at a kind of fade over pace rather than a hard switch over, which is always hard and always complicated. And we're talking about a lot of organizations that use our product have thousands of offices around the world. They have hundreds of thousands of employees. Doing a hard switch one day, from one to the other is a problem. You also get a situation with large corporations where they have different environments for, so the European operation work on a certain architecture, the US operation works on another architecture, then the Asia Pacific operation works on another architecture. So you've got one company, but they've got 3 different architectures inside that company.
And it could be very complex.
Very complex. And we're all about simplicity at Pexip. We're all about simplicity and just making that work. And the beauty of Pexip is it happens in the background. The user just doesn't know. So if you're a Skype for Business user, you see the Skype for Business user interface, and it's just normal. And a Cisco or a Polycom or whatever endpoint just comes into your Skype environment, you don't even know that's happening. At the same time, on the other end, the legacy VTCs are seeing their usual user environment, but there just so happens to be Skype users and things at the other end. So everybody's real comfortable. So there's no sort of uptick in support calls where people are going, what's happened to my video conferencing system? It's gone crazy. I've got this new thing happening. So we're in the background. It's very simple. So we're making a very complex workload very simple and seamless from from the user point of view.
Okay, cool. Well, that's a good transition. I know you have some slides and some more detail. Let's talk about the fundamentals of interoperability and what that looks like.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we just talk about the key thing we're talking about with interoperability, there are different protocols involved, and this is where it gets real complicated because there are literally hundreds and hundreds of different protocols that we have to translate. Going back to our Rosetta Stone analogy, we have to translate all of these different protocols from all of these different manufacturers and present them in a digestible way that you can use the technology. And the join experience needs to be good and natural and the same as what you're used to, and also obviously the video and the audio experience needs to be good. But again, as we said before, data sharing is also key because you want to be able to share a PowerPoint from a Skype system and it ends up on a Cisco system at the other end, and vice versa. And that's a lot of the magic of what we do is the interoperability. So interoperability is fundamental in transforming the way your employees work because you're gradually bringing them into the new world rather than sort of thrusting this new technology upon them, and sometimes that just doesn't work, and like I said, people go back to what they're used to. It has to be easy to administer. So what we have is a single pane of glass administration console that allows you to create multiple nodes around the world, and this is again key for interoperability to give people a good experience. We've all been in those bad video conferencing calls where the video breaks up and it's glitchy and it's kind of jokey. Well, that doesn't really happen very often anymore because of technologies like Azure and infrastructure as a service and cloud compute, and also hybrid compute and on-premise hypervisor computing. You can create very reliable environments for video conferencing, but our management console allows you to set up a resilient architecture for the call, test the call beforehand to make sure everything's okay, and also at the same time identify and really triage those technical issues on the fly as they're happening and keep the call going. So management within the interoperability solution is key.
So in the example that you gave, so you have your European, Asia Pacific, and United States example, you can have one person manage all those different environments.
Absolutely.
And for I'm assuming a high priority VP call who's speaking to several of his 100 of his employees, and they can use a solution. And so do you need someone in Europe to be managing the node in Europe?
No, one pane of glass, and it's very important. And the other thing that people don't understand is scalability. A lot of the solutions that are around today, they aren't elastic. The beauty of things like Azure and hypervisor solutions, data center solutions, is they use elastic compute. So when utilization is high, you can add compute and you can use that, and then when utilization is low, you can shut that compute down so you're not using that resource. And with Pexip, we call our solution Pexip Infinity, and this is a pretty good graphic explaining how scalable Pexip is. We can run hundreds of virtualized gateways across the world, all again managed from a single pane of glass. So if you look at this graphic, the dots that are in the middle are virtualized gateways. Each one of those green dots is a gateway showing its utilization. Now those can be deployed in on-premise environments, so they can be deployed in a private data center, They can also be deployed at the same time in a infrastructure as a service provider such as Equinix or Rackspace that provide infrastructure on a pay-as-you-go basis. And they can also be deployed in cloud compute platforms, scalable compute platforms such as Microsoft Azure. And this can all be done at once, so you can have a mixed environment. So let me just give you a scenario. Everybody has like a quarterly based call where maybe there's 100 or 300 people on it. You can run that on Pexip. You can have 300 video conferencing calls from mixed environments in one conference call. And this can be spread across multiple nodes, like you said, geographically around the world, because you don't want to have just one piece of equipment in London and everybody from around the world dials into that London link. The way we work is we're distributed like Azure, as it were, around the world. So you're only using that local hop to get to your local data center, and that's very efficient for video.
Cool. So that's like a good example is the quarterly business call where the CIO or CAO is getting on and he's doing a video broadcast and he wants to speak to all the employees across the world. He can do that, and then someone can scale that infrastructure up and then scale it back down after he's done. So you can actually reduce the cost or expand.
Massively reduce the cost.
Reduce the cost. So you don't have to have this up and running 24/7 idle, so to speak. Okay.
At Pexip, we're all about simplicity and efficiency.
All right. All right. So so tell me a little bit about the ways in which we can bring the Pexip solution into a Skype for Business meeting.
Yeah. So that was effectively again. The first way is the standard way. Just use the standard Skype invite button that's in your Microsoft Outlook.
Yep. Just
schedule a Skype meeting exactly as you would. No difference. But what will happen with Pexip will add some information on the bottom of that invite that says if you are joining from a legacy VTC or some other device, it gives you the information you need to join that meeting. The instructions are built directly in. So from a user point of view, it's completely seamless. There's no training needed.
And we know that this is 90% of all meetings, Skype for Business meetings. This is how they're scheduled. You go into Outlook, you hit this is Skype meeting, and then Pexip is smart enough or intelligent enough to just populate the instructions right there. That's really simple.
Really easy. Everybody finds this totally useful because it just magically appears at the bottom.
And the end user doesn't have to know some secret code?
No, it's all of the information is there.
Do they have to knock on their PC like a couple of times?
No, there's none of that. There's none of that. It's dead simple.
Okay,
dead
great.
Simple. Like I said, we're all about simplicity. The other one you might want to do is just a straight point-to-point call, because this is where the gateway mode happens. So if there's just one person calling another person like you were on a telephone.
Right.
If I was on a iPhone and you were on a Android phone, I don't expect that call's not going to go through because I'm on an iPhone and you're on an Android phone. What we do is we create a direct link using the Skype interface, so you can just call a legacy VTC system straight through like a point-to-point phone call. It's really simple, and that is pop up there. It's just a really simple point-to-point telephone call. Video conferencing call, and again, it's built into the Skype interface. It's seamless and it's really simple to do. No training required.
And so this scenario I like to call ad hoc, right? We're in a conference room, we're talking, and then we're like, hey, let's get Mary to join this call, and we just do a point-to-point. She's in a VTC room, or she's on Skype for Business, and we just call her. That's
right. And the other way is the kind of, like you were saying, the kind of what we would call the escalation mode, where there's two people in a call, or you're in a conference call, and then you need a subject matter expert. We were looking for a cable earlier. So we needed the cable guy. And if we need to bring the cable person in or contact that person, we can connect them via the Skype for Business chat interface, connect them on chat, and then we can just drag and drop them into the Skype for Business call.
Yeah.
And they would appear, and they could be on a legacy VTC system or a Skype system, but it's just a natural drag and drop experience that happens there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
So the simplicity of this is really nice. So you talked about some folks can't move to the cloud yet for whatever reason, regulatory or just their business rules mandate they stay on-prem. And so with a solution like Pexip, they could really just kind of bring together their distributed offices or and their users across the world and maximize the utilization of their VTC environment.
Absolutely.
And get the benefits of a modern Skype for Business meeting.
Absolutely.
Right.
We all want the world to move over to the modern way of doing things.
Yeah.
But you know,
it takes
some
time.
of these companies are slow. I mean, there are still companies running older versions of Windows and so on, and you know, they'll get there in the end.
Right.
But this accelerates that transition.
So Link 2010 users and Link 2013.
We got them covered.
Got them
We
covered.
got them covered.
Great.
We got them covered. It all comes in.
That's good to hear. All right, so
now, just finally, sorry.
Yes.
But the other important thing with this is data sharing. And across those three modes, data sharing is really important. And we use some fancy protocols. One's called VBSS, which is video-based screen sharing. This amazing thing behind us, the Surface Hub, uses a thing to draw with.
The whiteboard.
And so you need full motion video, because if you're drawing on the whiteboard, you want the people at the other end, whether they're on a legacy VTC system or whatever they're using, they want to see the fluid motion of you drawing on the whiteboard. They don't want to see a jerky 1 frame a second sort of thing going on. It's confusing and it's not a very good experience. So Pexip use the very latest in data sharing. So whichever system you're using from either end, either the legacy VTC end or the modern meeting or the modern world here, the Microsoft world, if you're using the Surface Hub or an SRS or a laptop, it's full motion video on the data sharing, because data sharing is a key component. And let's not forget that it's not just video transcoding and interoperability we're talking about.
Right.
It's also data sharing.
Right. So animations in a PowerPoint presentation.
They work.
They work.
They work, and they work fine.
And a video embedded in a PowerPoint workstation.
It works fine.
Okay, great. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. All right, so with that, let's open it up for questions. Let's see if we've gotten any questions from the audience. So the first question that we have is, does the Pexip solution work for Skype for Business Online?
Yes, it absolutely absolutely does. There are ways of connecting to it through various methods, but you can absolutely bring in a Skype for Business online meeting into a Pexip call.
Okay, good to know. Can you register VTCs to Pexip so that I can simplify my VTC architecture?
Yes, so that's one of the biggest steps, is that a lot of the reasons why people have problems moving over to Skype for Business, or one of the challenges, should I say, is the fact that they're using a very old-fashioned telephone call registration system. And you can register the legacy VTC endpoints to the Pexip, the Pexip Infinity platform, so you don't have to have that legacy call control anymore. You can just have, the modern environment that Pexip has. You can get rid of your old VTC call control and come into the new world of Pexip.
And as you mentioned before, simplification
Absolutely.
and including efficiency is part of that. And so having the Pexip as the manager.
Yes,
really
that's
helps.
right.
Okay.
It's a call control that's designed for video.
Yeah.
Rather than for audio.
Okay. Let's see. There was a good question here. Does this integration or interop provide OBTP for legacy VTCs? This is possible with third-party solutions for other OEMs.
Yeah, I mean, so the way we work with that, we work with an ecosystem of partners that comprise. OBTP is one button to push. That's kind of a niche requirement for not many customers. So with niche integrations like that, what we do is we work with partners, and you can absolutely do that technology with Pexip. It's very easy. There's 4 or 5 companies that we work with that handle that side of things, that integrate directly into Pexip.
Okay, cool. Now, there was a lot of interest about the Outlook integration, and one of the questions was, do I need a third-party Outlook add-in for the meeting template to be updated with custom VTC details?
No, it's a Pexip. The add-in is from Pexip, so it's a part of the Pexip solution.
Okay, so it's very simple.
Yeah.
It's automatically, and does
You
the end user?
You don't need something from another company. It comes from Pexip.
Okay, and you don't have to roll it out with the end user. It's all done on the server side.
That's right.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, great. Any insight into, does Pexip solution provide on-site MCU as well?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it is. It's in its very essence, you can get just a standard Dell or HP server running Microsoft Hyper-V. You put it on premise, and it can be a conference node, and it can be infinitely scalable. We've got customers running on-premise deployments with upwards of 10,000 users at any one time being able to connect into that call, and that is a big that is a big deployment. But again, that's on premise, buying your own hardware, your own Dell servers, using your own data center. Mm-hmm. But you can also do the same thing in rack space and all these other infrastructure as a service providers, and obviously the scalable compute platforms.
Right. One question is, what is the pricing model?
Well, okay, so that's a good question, and it's cheap, very reasonable as far as I'm concerned. It's $3.99 per user per month.
$3.99.
$3.99, not pounds. Not pounds. That's dollars US.
Okay.
USD.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very cheap and simple to implement. There's some server. You do have to buy a server as well, but from a user perspective, it's again $3.99 per user per month.
One question we have here is, does content sharing work as 1080p solution or higher desktop resolutions?
It works as 1080p, 720p and 1080p.
Okay, awesome. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have a lot of questions today.
Yeah.
We have a question here about, you talked about that. Do I have to use the Skype meeting ID to join my VTC to a Skype meeting?
Yeah, I mean that's simply how you do it. You just type in the Skype ID into the legacy VTC, and away you go. You're in the call. It's very simple.
Okay. Any roadmap on enabling media bypass?
I'm not entirely sure what the answer would be to that question. I don't know whether one of the guys on the online chat can answer that.
Okay. All right. I think the last question that we have, and it's actually come over a few times. Will you stand out at Ignite in crazy pants?
Yes, we'll be back. We'll be back with our crazy trousers. So we're hard to miss. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody at Ignite and everybody making fun of our crazy pants.
Yes, I can say that is the most memorable thing. In addition to episode 49, you guys really stand out. So you'll be at booth 1001, I hear?
That's right. Yep, okay. We'll be there.
So, Eddie, how do we stay in contact with you if we want to learn more about Pexip or your solutions?
Okay, so it's real simple. It's www.pexip.com. That's PEXIP.com. And if you go to that site, there's a whole load of information about the Skype certified solution. And also there's information about how to run a free trial of our product, and a whole load of documentation as well, so that can answer some of these questions that I couldn't answer.
Awesome. Thank you, Eddie. This has been really fascinating. It's good to get someone who's been in the industry and who's had a lot of perspective over the years come and share the solution. And so we're super excited that you are part of the Skype for Business family and here today. So thank you so much for joining us. And I guess that brings our episode to an end.
Yeah.
So for those of you joining, don't forget to join us in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about PSTN conferencing. We've had a lot of updates in PSTN conferencing over the last year. We're going to be talking about new business models. We're going to be talking about all the new features and capabilities that are included in there. So I definitely encourage you to come and join us in 2 weeks. And we'll have Oscar Ruiz Garcia from the engineering team talking about the solution. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll also be going behind the scenes of Skype Meeting Broadcast. Since we've been doing Skype Meeting Broadcast, we've been getting a lot of questions of like, how do we actually do this? How do we put on a show from with just a PC and a camera to now we're moving into more complicated environments and setting up. So we're actually going to take you behind the scenes to show you how Microsoft IT actually utilizes Skype Meeting Broadcast and the technology. And so we're really excited to kind of, go behind the veil and actually show you how this is done. So hope that you're going to be joining us then. And don't forget, after that, we'll be at Ignite. And so we're really super excited because we're going to be at Ignite. We're going to be actually filming the show from the studio floor at Ignite. And so we're going to have some exciting, we're going to be talking about a lot of exciting things. So make sure that you tune in. And if you are at Ignite, make sure that you stop by and see us as well as Eddie. And thanks. That's it. So see you soon.